It is often said that our children are the future of this country, and that means that their education is more important than ever. Teachers everywhere have the responsibility to educate and teach in order to set our future generations up for success. However, it seems that today that our education system is less focused on education and more focused on politics and profit. Today I'm going to present to you the argument that teachers' unions should be abolished. Over the course of my research, I've looked at both sides of this argument and have found that the cons far outweigh the pros. Through this presentation, I'm going to present to you how unions were formed and why, the problems with teachers' unions today, and then also the effect that teachers' unions have on the community and students and their education. So let's begin by looking at the history of teachers' unions. In 1857, 43 educators came together with the focus on improving teachers' salaries, educating and emancipated slaves, and also reforming child labor laws. At this point in time, there were a lot of unfair work environments, unsafe work environments, so these unions were established in order to protect teachers who basically had no rights and to keep their jobs more fair. So this was the beginning of the National Education Association. Over the next several years, according to J. Matter, several other unions began to form, such as the Chicago Teachers Federation, which began in 1897. It was also focused on raising pensions and keeping their salaries fair. Other unions, such as the Interborough Association of Women Teachers in New York and also the American Federation of Teachers, were formed soon after. Let's look at the reasons that unions were formed. As I said before, there were unfair work environments, and therefore their salaries and their pensions were in need of stabilizing and being made more fair. And then the protection of teachers in lawsuits or legal actions that were being brought against them unfairly, and serving as representation during contract bargaining. There's something called collective bargaining agreements, which is a contract between teachers and the school systems that set the bounds and the details of their contract with that. Now let's look at some of the union's shortcomings today. According to the American Progress, because of the contract set between the unions, teachers and school districts, along with the protection of that the union provides, teachers who are failing to effectively perform their job are allowed to continue. Teachers' unions have tenure and job protection policies and laws that make it nearly impossible for an ineffective teacher to be removed, even if they are found ineffective or have been found guilty of misconduct. In several national surveys that were administered to school principals, staff, and teachers, 59% of teachers and 81% of administrators reported that some or even several bad teachers were working at their schools. In comparison, however, only 2.1% of all teachers were fired for their misconduct. This is a shockingly low number compared to the numbers of ineffective teachers reported, and this just goes to show you how far they've gone from their initial intent. In order, their initial intent was to protect those in unfair environments, and now up to today, they're protecting all teachers at all costs, no matter what. The next point that I would like to make is the fact that these unions claim for higher teachers' salaries, but the cost of union dues offset that goal. According to the Foundation for Economic Education, union dues are mandatory to non-union participants and teachers who don't even want to support the political activities funded by these dues. Teachers who are not members are still required to pay representation fees called fair share, and when opting out of the union, there's an agency fee that must be paid. Information from freetoteach.org shows that on top of salaries being low for teachers, union fees have increased by 22% since 2010, and this leads many to feel that the monetary commitment is just simply not worth it. And now to my third point. The majority of teachers' unions' efforts are not focused on teachers as you might think, but more politically focused. In 2017 to 2018, a mere 19% of union spending actually went towards teacher representation, collective bargaining agreements, and other legal issues or anything concerning teachers. The rest of it went to paying for fancy headquarters and political agendas and promotions. In that same period of time, $2.9 million were poured into political activities and lobbying. 34% of full-time teachers' dues go to these political activities and the ideals of the unions that have nothing to do with teachers themselves or their representation. Much of the rest of that, other than the 34%, goes to funding of their own bills that need to be paid or political agendas. Now that we've discussed a few of the main problems with unions, let's quickly take a look at the effect that it has on students and communities. Teachers' unions have a political standpoint and not an educational one. When negotiating a contract with a school system, one of their first approaches to negotiating is threatening or carrying out a strike, which is an organized group refusing to work until their demands for the contract is met. The longest strike in history in 1987 was in Illinois that lasted for 8 months. The second longest one was actually here in Ravenna, Ohio, that lasted for 85 days. During a 36-day strike in Round Lake, Illinois, Janet Boss, an administrator for the American Federation of Teachers, said that school strikes can kill a district. They're dangerous and they can be horrible. Teachers going on strike is detrimental to the educational progress of students. It brings politics into the classroom where politics don't belong. And now to my conclusion. As you can see, I've put a picture up there of Snow White being poisoned by the evil witch who I've depicted as the union. I've found that teachers' unions, particularly the NEA, had value. However, over the years and to today, the union has become more politically involved and I believe has lost sight of its true intention. I stand for teachers, but I do not support